Right, guys. I see people from different parts of the world. So, good day, good evening, good afternoon to everyone. I'm Captain Gaurav Rana. I run Sea and Beyond, and I welcome all of you, all the participants, and all the panelists to this webinar. We've got Kaushik Seal sir, we've got Mohan Singh Pal sir, and we've got Arjun in the webinar. They will be the presenters for this webinar, and I'll of course introduce them later on as well. So welcome to all the three presenters as well, and we will then start the presentation now. Uh, I think most of you have answered on the poll, and as I see, there have been about all of you can see the presentation, and most of you have heard about the webinar from the email, a few from LinkedIn, and then MLA College, and then a few from the colleagues or friends. So that's about the audience. If we move to the next slide, please. All right. So why are we doing this webinar, See and Beyond? The main reason is, and this is a problem statement which I found out, that a lot of times whatever we hear as a individual, as a professional, the information might come from a friend of a friend of a friend, or through sources which are maybe not fully aware of the context. So through these webinar series, we try and build awareness from very senior, very learned people who would be able to provide you certain guidance. But what would you do with the guidance is that you will be able to take well-informed decision, right? So the purpose of this webinar and such series of webinar is for you to take a well-informed decision while hearing from the experts in that particular line of field. With that in view, if we move to the next slide. All right. So I'd like to welcome our speakers for this webinar. And before I welcome and introduce the speakers, let me also launch another poll from where we can get an introduction about the current participants. So if all of you could answer the poll while I introduce the speakers. We've got Kaushik Silsar. I don't think he needs any introduction. He's the president of IMEI, Institute of Marine Engineers of India. 40 years plus of experience, of course, an engineer. He's on the advisory board of Enerva Marine Group. He's a former GM of Njord, Maersk Tankers, Green Tech arm. And of course, he's worked in DNV and other companies as well. I mean, he has a very, very distinguished career. He's a fellow of RENA and IMEI and a chartered engineer. Welcome to the webinar, Kaushik sir.
Thank you so much, Gaurav. Pleasure to be here.
It's an honor to have you here, sir. And with him, we have Mr. Mohan Singh Pal. Again, I think most people would know, especially on the engineering side. He's the director of METC, IMEI Institute of Marine Engineers, Navi Mumbai. He's been 30 plus years in the marine engineering and maritime education. He was a former technical manager in Prime Tanker LLC and Pratibha Shipping. It's the company where I got my first command, Pratibha Shipping. And a former GM in Arc Marine and Engineering Singapore. Is an extra first class marine engineer as well. Thank you for agreeing to participate in this webinar, Mohan sir, and we're really honored to have you as well, sir.
Thank you very much, Captain Gaurav Rana.
Pleasure, sir. We've got Arjun as well. Arjun is the student recruitment officer from MLA College. He's done his MSc International Management from King's College London, a BA program from University of Delhi. He leads the strategic partnership and institutional collaboration at MLA College. And he has a background in AI strategy, business development, and international higher education. It's so good to have you here, Arjun, while we speak regularly, but it's always a pleasure to have you listen and of course to have you with the webinar as well.
It's a pleasure to be here, Captain Gaurav. Thank you.
Right. While I was introducing the speakers, we've also got an introduction, a very high-level introduction from the audience, the best that we could have. And what I see is that we've got almost 41% of the audience who are top four, who are still sailing, followed by people who are settled ashore with probably sailing experience, then followed by 18% of the audience who are sailing but at an operations level, and 7% who have never went to sea. So that's the audience which we have, and just so that everyone knows, including the speakers and the audience itself. So good to have all of you here in this webinar. Through the next 1 hour or so, we will talk about sustainability. We will talk about the regulatory part of it. Why is it becoming more important? What are the changes that could happen over a period of time, and how could you as a professional keep pace with it? Right. So we move to the next slide, but before moving that, let me have one more poll. And in that poll, I just want to understand from you all, what do you feel about sustainability, right? What are your views as an individual about sustainability? That's the first question. And the second is, how familiar are you with the current maritime decarbonization regulation? And I'm sure, people who are sailing, at least they would be told about the decarbonization regulation in their induction, and of course in their COC exams as well. But let's hear from the audience. We'll wait for another 20 seconds for the poll to end, and then I will hand over the platform to Kaushik sir. All right, guys, the last 5 seconds, I'll request all of you to vote, please. And I'm now ending the poll and sharing the results. So 55% of the audience feels that it's essential and it will define the industry's future, followed by important, but implementation is challenging. 7%, of course, it's overstated, and a few who are not sure. About the familiarity, 57% are somewhat familiar, followed by 27% who are actually working daily and very familiar, followed by 14% who have heard the terms but not the details, and not familiar at all. There's one person who's not familiar at all. So with that context in mind, we know the audience, we know their familiarity on decarbonization. I hand over the platform to you, Kaushik sir, and we can move to the next slide, Gautam, and over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Gaurav. That was a wonderful setting the scene which you just did. I'd like to thank Sea and Beyond and MLA College, who are running these webinars from time to time and educating the seafarers and the fraternity at large on very, very important topics. And you're doing yeoman service to the industry, and I'd like to congratulate you and your team for this excellent work which you have undertaken. So on behalf of the Institute of Marine Engineers, the entity which I represent, and of course in my personal capacity and in the work which I have done in the past 20 odd years in terms of sustainability, in terms of climate change, in terms of vessel performance, and in terms of energy efficiency in that space. So I'd like to present a few sort of use cases and some information pertaining to a hot burning topic which most of you have identified as essential and critical to our maritime existence. So we know shipping powers the world. We know all these statistics, 85, 90% of global trade by volume, 70%, close to 70% by value, right? But at what cost is all this? So that's something which we need to tackle. And we have a pathway which IMO has created. And we are looking at, of course, 2050 horizon, but that's a bit far away. So how do we look at what is in front of us immediately, right? So some numbers which we already know of, as I said, 2.5% of all global greenhouse gas emissions are coming from shipping. Yeah. The only advantage to this number, I mean, although the number seems a bit large and it's the sixth or seventh in terms of if you relate it to, if you aggregate it and put it on a countrywide list, it will be sixth or seventh on the list. But the important thing is that all these emissions are not from one particular area, geographical area. It's spread out globally. So, because the vessels are all plying on a global level. So, this is not so much of a critical nature because it's not emanating from a single geographical area. However, what is most concerning is the potential emissions rise if we don't check all this. That is what is continuously worrying us. And the numbers there are staggering. According to data which is coming in to us on a very regular basis, these numbers are probably, we are looking at 100% increase from the present day levels. And if we don't take any action, or if we are slow to take any action, we can have disastrous climate change effects. Some of which we are already having a look. You see, I mean, this year, of course, is a special year with El Nino playing truant with us. We have already seen scanty rainfall, extreme heat, in various parts of the globe. So all this is coming at a cost. Yeah. So we actually look at this as an inflection, a strategic inflection point, which means that we have to stop this trajectory from spiraling upwards or downwards, however you look at it. Gautam, next slide, please. IMO 2050 roadmap, most of you would have heard of it or seen it. But what is important is the meaningful checkpoints at 2030 and at 2040. Now, what this graph in front of us shows is by 2050, we are looking at a net zero situation, which means our minimum reduction percentage and our targets have both matched 100%, and which means that we are at a net zero, right? So IMO wants us to achieve that, yeah, and hence we are working backwards, and we look at 2040 as a critical checkpoint, and also at 2030 as a strike target of 30%. Now, what happens is that member states should have agreed or adopted the net zero framework of IMO by now. Unfortunately, that did not happen in the last MEPC, which was held last year in 2025. And it was pushed by 1 year. So hopefully at this year's MEPC 85, which is going to be end November, early December, hopefully we should have this adopted. And then it'll probably take a year and a half, almost a year and a half to enter into force, right, by the tacit acceptance methodology. So if that happens, then we can safely say that we are on our way and we are underway to achieve our net zero target in and around 2050, right? Next slide, please. The regulatory stack, which the sailing staff and the people working ashore, the superintendents, the energy managers, the fleet performance people, they would quickly understand that the regulatory stack is kind of important, right? The operational index is already valid from ships above 400 GT, right? And then we have the CII, which also came in around that same time. And then we had the EU regulation from Jan 2024. And along with that, the next year came in the FuelEU, right? So we now have 100% coverage of the EU ETS with us, which essentially means that the GHG intensity limits are very well identified, and it's from a well-to-wake basis. Now, so you are expected to be responsible for your carbon emissions essentially from the point when somebody is drilling that oil, right, or fossil fuel, or making that oil or manufacturing it somewhere, to the point where the vessel uses it, right? So the entire segment of the fuel journey or the energy journey needs to be tracked, and their limits have been set. So when you're looking at the regulatory stack, this then becomes the benchmark. It's the starting point, right? Anything above this. So this is the ground level. This is ground zero, right? So the next slide, please. So if you look at the road to 2030 alone, we are tightening targets across all these 4 regulations. So if you look at firstly, the table below, year 2026, if you look at EEXI, this is ongoing compliance for our existing vessels, right? You look at the CII, your annual reduction factor, which is called the Z factor, was at 11% at 2026. Every progressive year that is tightening now, so 13.6 in 27, then 16.25, 18.875 is the 2029 target, and of course 2030 it's 21.5. So that's what we are expected to achieve. And why are we doing this? Because by 2040 we should come down to 40%. Yeah. Then if you look at EU ETS, yeah, we have the international voyages which are now being assessed, yeah, under the EU, the emissions trading scheme. Yeah. And similarly for FuelEU Maritime, we have a 6% GHG intensity reduction vis-a-vis the 2020 levels, yeah, which also essentially means that your shore power is becoming mandatory in EU waters, right? And this is what actually makes the equation very, very difficult and alarming, because for people on board, if the rest of the world is yet to comply and one area already has such strict regulations, then for the people sailing, it's like having 2 different sort of pathways to follow, right? So, but it's only a matter of time once IMO adopts the net zero framework, hopefully this year, later on in the year, then of course the rest of the world will quickly fall in. And we don't have a choice, as most of you have given in the poll, that you don't have a choice. It's absolutely essential. And then all this is going to be part of our sustainable journey. Next slide, please. So as I was saying, compliance is actually the datum here. It's the flow, right? The competitive advantage, what lies in our industry, is actually the ceiling. And as owner, charterers, operators, and the managers at large should look at these green shipping credentials. And if you look at in a survey, cargo owners are willing to pay. 4 out of 5 cargo owners have agreed to pay a green premium on the carriage of their cargoes, right? So as per BCG 2025 figures, 4.5% of the people whom they survey, they have willingness to pay that premium, right? And what is of significance is that there are 3 types of cargo owner segments: the laggards, the followers, and the forerunners. Yeah, I will talk about these 3 a bit more a bit later, because it ties up significantly with the sustainability pathway and the financial advantages, what is available with a ship operator or a cargo owner, right? So how do we treat decarbonization as a value creation strategy, right? And how do we take meaningful CII ratings, right, as a value implication, which will make sure that our asset only improves in its performance, right? So that's really the competitive advantage, and we need to work keeping compliance as a basic minimum, as a datum, and to make sure we go premium on our green. Next slide, please. So over to you, Gaurav.
Absolutely, sir. So I think we talked about how the regulations are coming in and what impact it would have, and also the premium that various stakeholders are willing to pay. Let's get into a little bit of a more operational question. What do you guys, the audience, feel that which alternate fuel do you predict will lead the shipping transition? You've got 4 choices, actually 3, and the 4th is no single winner. Got about 70% of you who have voted. We'll wait for another 10 seconds before we end the poll.
Yeah, let's wait. And mind you, this is in the next 10, 12 years. We are looking at what's your prediction by 2040. So we're looking at a 10, 12-year horizon.
Right. All right, we've got about 75%, but I'll end the poll here and share the results. So I think people have played it safe. No single winner. The fleet will run on a mix. Then followed by ammonia, LNG, and very less people think it will be methanol. I'll stop sharing this and I'll request Kaushik sir you to talk about it, and of course your next slides would be referring to it. So over to you, sir.
Right. Yeah. Thanks a lot. So, as I mean, the poll, of course, feels that there is no single winner. Yeah, but in our study and in our opinion, and with the fact that we have had successful LNG bunkering hubs across the globe. So, in our opinion, LNG is sort of, the dominant sort of energy source, which is going to be, it's being called a transition fuel, right? But it's going to be, so if you're looking at the 2040 horizon, we are looking at LNG, which will be dominantly present there. Yeah. So methanol, of course, rapidly scaling, and it's already leading in the container and car carrier segments. So it's got its limitations, but in our opinion, that's what is the next transition. Ammonia, yes, it remains a fuel which has good potential because of its zero carbon potential. Yeah. Orders are increasing in numbers, but it is still a very, very toxic energy source to handle. Yeah. And even a small amount of leakage in the engine room can really pose a disaster. So although great work is being done in that area, but we feel that that's something which is going to take a bit of more time to mature in terms of its capability. Yeah. Hydrogen, of course, is gaining a lot of ground. We had our first hydrogen train movement in India yesterday or a couple of days back, which was, a success. So, which obviously is going to improve public perception. So all this also is based on how people are going to react and what they feel about using these alternate fuels. But I guess hydrogen also is going to make its way around sooner or later. Of course, the long-term horizon and my personal favorite for long-term voyages is nuclear. I'd given a blueprint some 40 years ago, whilst I was, still in university, a little more than 40 years, that the best way to look at sustainable shipping is to have the long ocean-going voyages, make that like nuclear, and then as soon as the vessel touches the exclusive economic zone, which is 200 to 250 nautical miles within each of these zones, we can sort of have a transshipment into daughter vessels and like bring them with alternate fuels. So that was part of what I'd written in one technical essay back in university. I just hope somebody sees that, some powers that be, and brings that back into working groups. All right. Yeah. So we know LR is already working on nuclear rules. I believe ABS as well. And let's hope this is fast tracked and we are able to see the light of day. So next slide, please. So that's the order book of vessels. Yeah. So LNG is leading the race by far at this point. Yeah. But that's 2025 and 2026. Things can quickly change within the next 5 years. Yeah. And please note that India, in its Maritime India vision and the Viksit Bharat of 2047, we want to be a great shipbuilding hub ourselves and a region ourselves. So we should watch out for Indian vessels to hit the market as well. Yeah, at some point in time within the next 5-6 years. So this landscape would alter a bit, and hopefully we have other fuels also gaining ground. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah, just to answer a question from the audience that I see, we would have time for Q&A. So I would request you to either put your questions in the chat or hold them. You will be allowed to unmute and ask your questions. So either way is fine. So kindly hold on to your questions, or you can put them down if you feel you're going to forget or something. Yeah. So our short-term 2040 goal is no single fuel wins. Yeah. The multi-fuel transition strategy. Yeah. Fuel-ready design is there. Yeah. So numbers speak for itself. We've got 452 fuel-ready vessel orders in 2024, right? Which includes 130 ammonia and 320 methanol. Yeah. So if a vessel design has a fuel-ready notation, it's a strategic hedge, please note. So whenever a charterer or a cargo owner is to look at a vessel for the next 10 years or something as a long-term charter, it would definitely consider something which is multi-fuel ready or one of these green fuel ready. Yeah. Next slide, please. I think there's a poll right after this. Yeah. Back to you, Varun.
Sure, sir. Hi all, we've got the next poll which should be on your screens right now. So as per you, which digital technology do you think will have the getting into a little bit of the implementation stage? We've understood its impact. We've talked about the fuels, and of course, I mean, without technology, all of this will be very, very difficult to implement. So that's what we would request you to answer. Which technology, as per you, will have the most impact? All right, guys, I've got 70% of you who have voted. The last 5 to 7 seconds, and then I'll stop the poll. I hope we get 80% answer. Got 79. One more person. That's great. We've got 80%. Let me end the poll and share results. So most of the audience feels that AI voyage optimization will have the maximum impact, followed by IoT, followed by autonomous operations. That's good. The acceptance of autonomous is getting more, and then followed by digital twins. Thanks for your response, everyone. I'll leave Kaushik sir to respond to this and have the next slides then. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I think that's a good poll to have here, which paves the way for the next segment of what I'm going to talk about. So Gautam, can you please move to the next slide? Yeah, so the next segment, what we're going to talk about is digital transformation and smart shipping. Yeah. So a lot has been done in these areas in the past 5 years, and it's really critical that we understand where our transformation is leading to and how quickly can all this be introduced to us, right? which essentially means that our skill sets, I mean, whatever competency, examinations we are going through, and we have a sizable number of people who are sailing today on this webinar, and this is essentially for the benefit of them once they want to transition ashore, or whenever they are on leave, if they want to contribute in any way to this entire movement. This will give them a fairly good idea to enhance their skill sets in these particular areas. So if you look at AI voyage optimization, which is really leading the front here in terms of weather routing using AI models, right? We do use a lot of IoT and sensors from cargo monitoring and, of course, in the engine room. Yeah. The challenge, of course, is to get all this data in the most efficient way across to a shore. And most importantly, is to have all this data meaningfully translated so that we take informed decisions. Right? We have a lot of these tech companies going from shipping company to shipping company. Nothing against them, please. Yeah, it's a very good job that they're doing, and they're trying to bridge this technology gap in the maritime space. Very good. But shipping primarily does not need everything automated or auto-logged. Yeah. Unless, of course, we move into autonomous shipping, right? We still are some time away from that. But till the time we have people on board, we should be having a bit of IoT and censored and auto-log data, but we don't need it every 15 seconds or every 30 seconds or something like that, which some of the tech companies vouch for. Right? We don't need that really in our shipping industry. What we need is, of course, the veracity of this data and auto-logged, of course, but the frequency can be, twice in 4 hours. We are used to watches, 4-hour meaningful watches. We can have twice, thrice. That's good enough. As long as we have that kind of data coming in, we have, of course, less data points, and we don't clog the sort of cloud with like data sets. At the same time, we get a sort of seamless monitoring data. Yeah. Next slide, please. Some of the figures which I wanted to share. There's been a 5 to 15% fuel reduction across the various voyage optimization models. And mind you, this is purely operational efficiency. You don't require any capex for this. You just have to essentially follow the best route, or trim the vessel in a particular way, or have a power distribution which is uniform, have a speed which is not wavy. So just by doing these few things, you can achieve a 5 to 15% fuel reduction. Yeah. Of course, the invisible engine of decarbonization is the 2050 target here. We keep that in mind, where we want to have the net zero framework. Yeah. Next slide, please. So we come to a very important part here, that all this green transition is fine, but who's going to give us the money? Where is the green bucks going to come from, right? So, if you look at some of the strategies which most of the good organizations are following, they have an ESG strategy. They've got, they are signatories to principles like the Poseidon principles, where already we've got 36 signatories. who are part of this, right? And then the portfolios are discussed. We are very transparent in our financial disclosures. And this not only takes our climate risk to a level which makes it very, very manageable. So what happens is, as long as we are able to identify who are the laggards and who are the people who are behind the race, yeah, with measurable and visible points, yeah, as soon as we introduce these penalties, then this entire situation will do a fillip, right, for the good. Next slide, please. Yeah. So for some of you who want to know a bit on the Poseidon principles, yeah, so it's really a good mission to integrate climate considerations into lending discussions. So if the banks or the financial institutions have to lend, then they would have to have a visibility into what you are doing in your financial and your emissions disclosures, right? So it establishes a common baseline where we have an annual climate alignment score, yeah, which measures each portfolio's trajectory against a decarbonization pathway. So these are metrics which are creating market-wide accountability in ship lending. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah. So the important thing for ship owners and operators to look at is that are we in the correct position to capture this? Yeah. So if you look at the year 2025, we have had a 95% portfolio disclosure, right? Which means that your eligibility, which allows you for capital to flow in, right? So if you are to invest in a vessel, right, and if you are to get ship financing, then you need to have a disclosure on what your activities are, your PLN and your climate risks. So if you're disclosing 95% of that, then it's really a target which is well achieved. And we are poised in a very good way to align ourselves with the Poseidon principles. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah. So ESG has to be a strategic intelligence, and it's the common sort of area between beyond reporting and towards a resilient future for us. Yeah. So if you are aware of the task force on climate-related financial disclosures, that's the TCFD alignment and the climate risk disclosure at the board level, right? So all the three elements of ESG tie up to make sure that our integrated sustainability dashboard and the fleet-wide oversight becomes very, very visible. And your data, then the data quality will be a strategic asset for you firstly for compliance, and secondly, to get ship finance, right? So all this is tied down very, very closely with whatever you're doing on board. So if you are going to submit good data, which then becomes a financial disclosure for the shipping company, which allows your company to be an ESG ambassador, a green ambassador, which allows them green financing to buy more vessels. So this is really the way forward, in my opinion. Next is poll time.
All right, so thank you so much, And in this poll will be about the previous slide. We've generally been talking about what would come in the next slide, but of the three ESG pillars which were just outlined, which one do you think would be the toughest test for the maritime companies over the next 5 years? The environmental part, the social part, the governance part, or all three? Right, I guess another 10 seconds and then we will end the poll. All right, ending the poll now and sharing results. Nothing would be easy for any stakeholder here, but most of us feel that it will be all three. Everything in the ESG will be very difficult or the tough to implement. Right, of course, I think everyone has their own opinion, and thanks for sharing that. I think what we should now, when Kaushik sir takes it, we'll understand how all of this would affect the professionals. You as an individual, how it would affect you and what you should be doing to ensure that you are in line with what's happening in the market. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Gaurav. Yeah, and this is why we are here exactly. And especially in India, it's very relevant for our maritime task force. Please remember, we are at that 12.5, 12.6 global workforce percent, and we are trying to push that mandate very seriously to bring it up to 20%, right? Which is a huge and a steep target. So what is it? What is in it for us? And it's at this juncture we talk about why maritime professionals who are, say, on this webinar, why is it important for them? So of course, for ship owners, it's the fleet renewal and the standard asset risk. Yeah, for fleet managers, operational decarbonization, CII management, yeah, and of course the financial payoffs and the financial whatever impacts that has. For the marine engineers, yeah, we are looking at alternate fuels and the digital competency of the skill sets which come in and which are in play. Regulators and port authorities are also looking at infrastructure and the green corridor strategies. Yeah, and of course the academic leaders, we have to create a curriculum which is transformative and which identifies the gaps in the correct possible way and creates sort of suitable plug-in programs which can be meaningful for the workforce. Yeah. Next slide, please. So, which brings us to a very important question is, are we future skills and are our leaders equipped to handle this new wave of ESG and the green transition? Yeah. So here we are looking at essentially four tangible skill sets where we want to have our future skills, yeah, aimed at technical foundation, strategic fluency, interdisciplinary mastery. Yeah, this is like something which is really gaining ground, yeah, allowing us to also have our financial acumen built in, yeah, along with the sustainable strategy. And along with that, it's our leadership readiness. Yeah, we should be able to take up a leadership position or a role at any given point in time, anywhere, right? Never mind our rank or level. Yeah, leadership is a role which you can assign to anyone at any given point in time. Yeah, so we have to be ready with all these skill sets. Next, please. Yeah, so I wanted to touch a bit on either we act now or we lose this advantage, which has presented itself in form of a great opportunity for us. There are, of course, these front runners where sustainability is their growth strategy. Yeah, they look at all the green transition that is happening, and these front runners or forerunners, as you wish to call them, are really leading the pack. Yeah. Then we have got the majority of the people who are actually followers. They have a structured transition plan in place, but they are very happy to meet minimum requirements. Yeah. So look at our minimum safe manning. We would be very happy to just meet that. Yeah. We'll not look at placing additional manpower or skill sets on board or resource on board. Yeah, because we feel that we have just met the compliance. Yeah. These are the followers. Yeah. Majority of the people fall in this category. Yeah. And then, of course, we have the laggards. Reactive compliance only. Yeah. They carry the highest long-term cost and risk. Yeah. And we have seen more often than not that one rotten apple somewhere can damage the entire lake, pond, sea, ocean, river, whatever water body you may have. So we have to be very careful when we are dealing with the laggards, right? And when we have to look at compliance, yeah, we have to look at the cost which is involved. Yeah. So the cost of inaction and the value of early leadership, yeah, that is something which people have to weigh. And history has proven time and again that it's the value of early leadership which often wins the race in the long term. Okay. Next slide, please. So some of the key takeaways which I'd like to leave you all with today. That compliance is not the floor, it's not the datum. It's the floor, it's not the ceiling, right? The real advantage comes when you are treating sustainability as a strategy and not as a tick box exercise. Yeah. Then, of course, no single fuel wins. In transition, of course, LNG is here to stay for a while. Yeah. Methanol, hydrogen, ammonia, nuclear will coexist slowly, although I hope they transition quickly. Yeah. Success depends on fuel flexible design, not betting on just one winner. Yeah. Digital transformation is decarbonization's invisible engine. Yeah. We already have addressed this: AI voyage optimization, digital twins, IoT sensors monitoring can unlock double-digit gains for you without any hardware. Then, of course, the financing part. Capital is repricing climate risk. Green finance, ESG disclosure, and the Poseidon principles make sustainability performance a precondition for ship finance, and it's not a bonus alone. And of course, in particularly pertinent to our landscape here, the skills gap is the biggest constraint. Technical fluency in fuels and digital tools must pair with strategic fluency in carbon markets and ESG. Yeah, this is what separates the good from the not so good. Next, please. Some sources and references, which of course we refer to, and I would like to leave you all with this particular slide, which talks about how and where and how we can purpose-built maritime education and redefine them with the skill sets needed in today's context and scenario. So at this point, actually, I would like to bring in Mohan sir, who heads our Maritime Training Center at the Institute of Marine Engineers. And he is, of course, talking to the boys and girls on a daily basis. And he is in the correct position to talk about what kind of new skill sets the present day marine engineers are expected to develop. So I would request Mohan sir to join our discussions over here at this point. And if you could just highlight some of the key skill sets the present day marine engineers are expected to develop on the basis of all this transition and the strategy. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. First and foremost, thank you very much for this platform, Sea and Beyonds and MLA College to give me this opportunity. And of course, Mr. Cede to be along with his team to be in this platform. Coming back to your last slide, what you have talked about is the skill gap in our profession, particularly the marine engineers, what we would be requiring. And the very much upfront issue is the alternate fuels. Over the time, we have been burning the fuels of your heavy oil and diesel oil, where we, for last 40 years, okay, we have been quite basically efficiently using that. But the things are changing, and where you are, as from your basically slides, as for your presentation for last 1 hour, which you basically have completely summarized green shipping, okay, within this 1 hour. That is, first of all, thank you very much for highlighting us about the main points of it. Particularly, I liked about it where many of us, many of your basically stakeholders, we complain about where is the finance going to come? Okay, and that is what you talked about a Poseidon basically model of your finance. That was really for me particularly quite highlighting. Okay, so before proceeding further, I would like to see that from IMEI, we are here in the four classrooms, okay, where actually we are about 150 plus people plus candidates. We are basically attending this webinar, and I am in one of the class, and this class is AECS. That is your for people who are not very much familiar with AECS. This is an assessment, examination, certification for seafarers, which is essential for anybody who is in the maritime training, particularly in the senior level, principal, quality controlling, as well as developing the courses as a course officer. So we have with us in my class, we have a 13 very senior faculty from your navigating side as well as engineering side. As a IMEI, we are mainly training our engineering side. Of course, in some of the courses we have from the deck side also, like a EECS as well as a gas fuel course. Okay, so the IGF course, which is a regulatory bodies or coming from a regulatory body, which is one of the area where the skill gap is basically being covered. Okay, so of course we are talking about your basically transition of your fuel, alternate fuel to your LNG, methanol, as well as your ammonia. Of course, hydrogen is very in a nascent stage, as you have said yesterday. Only our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, he inaugurated Indian railway train from your Jind to New Delhi, I think that is a small basically leg of the train, but that is what is, you can say, the beginning of your hydrogen fuel use in the railway. Of course, railway is a years, another basically sector of your transportation. Very soon we are going to also see this hydrogen also being used in one of the basically maybe your small boats or your basically tugboats. Okay. However,
Right.
at present, we are basically training people for your gas fuels, that is a LNG. Okay. Moreover, LNG, somewhat the training has been well established. However, we are transiting to a methanol as well as ammonia. Okay, where regulatory bodies also have come with their basically very good guidelines about this methanol and ammonia. Of course, LNG, they had come with a long back. Similarly, hydrogen also is likely to come very soon about the guidelines, how the training should be imparted for a hydrogen fuel. Next, as you have highlighted about your nuclear fuel, okay, nuclear fuel, of course, very limited knowledge people have. None of us are basically training towards a nuclear fuel. And that still is in, I would say, in the basically drawing board stage, though Captain Manish Tyagi very much highlighted this is already, ALAR has started making rule regulations about it. Of course, SOLAS 1974 has been very much introduced the chapters 8 about your nuclear ships. The history shows that the nuclear fuel was hardly used in merchant shipping. Of course, it was in the basically Navy, very much used. Still, it is used. Even India has got some submarines which are running onto your nuclear fuel. But merchant shipping, it is still big dream where we are looking for basically the nuclear fuel. One of the main reason of your nuclear fuel not being very, what do you call it, in near future success, the control of the fuel. Because international politics very much say that not everybody should have access to the nuclear fuel. So that is what is going to be the one of the basically biggest roadblock for a nuclear fuel be adopted in your commercial shipping.
Okay. Right. Yep.
Right. So in addition to, of course, this is about only the fuel, what we are talking about. In addition to that, the people should be very much trained for a hybrid. Okay, that means the ships are being now controlled. Okay, from not only from your control room, but ships are being controlled, engines are being controlled from ships, as well as many of these things are remotely being basically controlled. Okay, maybe not directly controlling through the basically instruction to the shipboard people are being controlled. That is what is to be trained. I always give an example that I started my career way back in 1982. In the engine room, no control room. And my last ship as a chief engineer in 2004, 2005, I was sailing in a ship which was also having no control room. Because all the controls were being basically managed from the bridge. This was the only ship I sailed as a basically engineer, where during maneuvering, instead of going down into engine room, I used to go up in the bridge. And that is quite unique things. And that is the time I realized when you can control complete your propulsion system, and for that matter, any other system, basically electrical generation system, power generation system, or you'd say ballast management system, or today we talk about your scrubber system from the bridge, you can very much control it from the remote.
Right.
So for that, we also have to think about basically generating or training, basically putting out there, because training comes forefront. Unless until people are not trained, there will be no operation engineers. Okay. So otherwise you have to train them on the job.
Right.
So on the job training is not cheap. It is quite expensive.
Right. Yeah. So, thank you, Mohan sir, for those wise words. And you are, of course, positioned at the right place to make sure that the skill gaps in our professionals are plugged in. And with the opportunity that you have at the Institute of Marine Engineers, you can purposefully guide the professionals in that direction, right? So I think in the interest of time, I would like to probably now go back to Gaurav and sort of hand over this particular segment back to him, and so that we would keep some time for the question and answers from the audience as well, right? But before that, back to you, Gaurav, so that we listen to what MLA College has to say as well. Thank you so much for having me on this one.
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you to both of you, Kaushik sir and Mohan sir, for your kind words. I think you explained through presentation, Kaushik sir, about each and every aspect, and which was summarized very well later on by Mohan sir as well. So thank you to both of you. Just most of the audience, they would know, or if they don't know, there's a partnership between MLA College and IMEI as well. MLA College is a UK-based college which offers courses which are related to shipping and which help a maritime professional in the transition to shore, and also which helps them to upskill, right? And IMEI is, of course, on the seagoing competence. I mean, it's probably the best college on the seagoing competence in India. So we've had that collaboration, and now I would request Arjun to come in and talk about, what MLA has to offer. We saw a skill gap in the professional. We saw what upskilling needs to be done by various professionals to stay updated in the market. So Arjun, if you could tell us a little bit about MLA College, and also, what are the various offerings that you have?
To be here. Before I start off, I'll just share my slide as well. So please, if you could confirm if that is visible.
Yep, you can see it now.
All right. Firstly, a huge thank you to you, Captain Gaurav, and C and Beyond team, in general, who worked so hard in the organization of the webinar and facilitation of all aspects related to that. So this is a partnership we value deeply. So here's to you and your team. And also, following Mr. Kaushik Cede sir and Mr. Mohan Singh Pal sir is not an easy act. To be very honest, I feel that there's high pressure right off the bat, but it's been extremely insightful, the trends and the landscape that, you about in terms of transition to sustainability, the market need for the same, the regulatory paradigm that exists, which has been heralded by the IMO, and which sooner or later companies set across the world have to adhere to and follow. And therefore, because of that, the associated challenges, the associated and the skill requirement that is required with the professional on the understanding of this landscape. So thank you so much for that holistic picture, and to you, Mohan sir, for explaining in a very granular way what this would actually look like in terms of the projected skill gap which must be met at an institutional level. So we really appreciate that. And building on to what you said, Captain Gaurav, we have signed a strategic partnership with the Institute of Marine Engineers India. It's something, we are extremely proud of, because we believe this is one of the most premier institutions to be associated with, since we are extremely keen to enter the Indian market. And we believe that your professional expertise, the scale and the depth of your mariner base, specifically the marine engineer base, as well your understanding of the market conditions, would be extremely helpful for us also to understand how we can use our academic expertise, our academic research to bridge the market gaps which you've identified based on the same. So this is a partnership we're extremely excited to build up. Now, moving on, of course, as Kaushik sir has explained in depth, there is a regulatory pressure, right? There has been a change in paradigm, in approach, which makes the sustainability question unavoidable rather than say just talks at conferences, just talks at boardrooms. And because of that, the question that is very facing the audience in general is what are the right set of skills that people can invest in to, stay abreast of this paradigm, to stay abreast of this landscape, and based on the identification of the gap, what is the way forward to ensure that this identified gap can be met? Like, are there academic programs that might deal with the same? Are there industry skilling ecosystems that might deal with the same? What exactly is the availability of resources that one might do as companies, as corporations, and as individuals to ensure that based on these trends, the market gap can be met at an individual level? I believe this is where MLA College comes in. Let me just offer a brief introductory context, but if you don't mind, I'll just reshare my screen once again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is this visible, Captain Roy?
Yes.
Right. So basically, we offer undergraduate and postgraduate degrees. Specifically, we specialize at the cusp of sustainability and maritime skills. And all our degrees are distance learning. So the traditional format that is a lot of our active student base, a lot of active user base have often been active sailors who, rather than taking a break from taking a contract or taking a break from, say, their sailing profession, they take these programs and they go through them alongside their career itself. There is no break involved. There is no extra, say, allocation of time required alongside their career that they might have to invest for these programs. So this is how the entire theme of MLA College started off when it started off within the University of Plymouth, as its Department of Hydrography in 2012. But say since a few years down the line, around 2017, 2018, MLA College became an autonomous higher education institution, which offers both its undergrad and postgraduate programs by itself, which basically means that the faculty, the curricula, the academic expertise, all of that is available in-house, while at the same time, the degrees are still awarded by the University of Plymouth. So essentially, this is the academic ecosystem within which MLA College operates. And of course, as the landscape has been covered by Kaushik sir extensively as well. We've also recognized in specific our academics that the cusp of sustainability and maritime is a very important area on which, say, research, on which academic upskilling as well as industry upskilling is required. And we also understand that this is a subject which is not being dealt with at a mainstream level yet within the academic ecosystem, which is why these programs are getting a lot of focus in terms of our offerings. So our first program is the Bachelor's of Science in Sustainable Maritime Operations. This is the top-up program which is equal to a final year of a traditional, say, 3-year or a 4-year bachelor's. So it's aimed at anyone who already has, say, a higher national diploma, they have a foundation degree. If they have, say, an OOW or an EOW COC, they are eligible to directly apply for this top-up program and within a year also get a BSc degree from the Plymouth. It is 1.5 year in duration, and the modules it covers specifically deals with current trends in the maritime sector. So, for example, one of the modules being maritime industry in the 21st century, which will explore the sustainability landscape, the decarbonization landscape, how do the regulatory landscape affect companies, stakeholders, etc., and how one can be prepared for the same. It deals with net ocean processes and impacts, maritime regulation, maritime operations in specific, and it culminates in a research project. So over here, an individual has a choice that if they want to take, say, a 6-month dissertation project at undergrad level in any field of their interest within the sustainable maritime operations domain, they can undertake this under the guidance of an academic tutor who's an established expert in this field as well. And therefore, they will have ample guidance at every junction of, pursuing the program or proceeding through the program. So this is the gist of our bachelor's program. Now, the reason that this program in specific is, quite helpful for giving a sustainability edge is that it focuses around the current regulatory landscape, keeping in mind the 2050 vision of the IMO. It focuses on the sea to shore mobility, which to talk about during the introduction, which basically means that once seafarers are transiting to shore-based roles, where a more strategic aspect might be required, a more, say, functional, organizational aspect might be required rather than just an operational aspect. This program keeps that perspective in mind to ensure that that transition readiness is there for the individual who's completing this program. Of course, regulatory fluency, as we've talked about, and other very interesting one being the data and analysis skills. So, for example, one of the aspects Kaushik sir covered during his presentation was how AI, for example, can be integrated in ensuring that the veracity of data is there. The route optimization is there in order to save fuel emissions. All of this are underpinned on the aspect of ensuring that data is effectively captured, tracked, and analyzed to ensure adequate outcomes from the scene. So this is also a core feature of these programs, that the individual is upskilled with the latest programs, the latest softwares, and the latest tools to ensure that their data analysis skills keep up with the changing trends. The second program I would like to focus on, which is more relevant to especially the Indian landscape, is Masters in Sustainable Maritime Operations. This is extremely useful for people who already hold a bachelor's or an equivalent degree, and they wish to step into more senior leadership roles, or they wish to transition onshore by using the technical expertise that they gain while sailing and combining that with a high-level academic credential. To really have this globalized qualification, which will make their case stronger, based on the MNC companies that they apply for. So this program is a part-time program, hence the duration of 32 months. And the idea is that in this 2.5 years, you're sailing, you're going through the degree award, and at the end of the same, you get a full Masters of Science degree. Now, the program modules of this degree are extremely wide-ranging, are extremely extensive in terms of the subject matter that they deal with, and they are broken down into both compulsory and elective modules. So, for example, for compulsory modules, you'll see marine science and engineering management, project and data management, maritime industry practice, as well as the research project. But in electives is where the game gets really interesting, because these are programs essentially which our academics are continuously working on creating. So, for example, we've had two newly launched electives being social sustainability as well as maritime decarbonization, which has just been launched now and are fully compatible with the current regulatory landscape and the projected trends up to 2050. And essentially, our electives focus more on the sustainability aspect of the maritime sector. So interestingly, the format that this degree takes is, because it is module by module by module, a person can take a particular module based on their personal availability, based on their career availability as well. And then after completing first module, they can decide to take the next module as and when they have the availability for the seat. So an example that this can take is that, for example, if you take MLA 701 Marine Science and Engineering Management, you say take 3 to 4 months to complete the module. Before starting the next module, project and data management, you can decide to take, say, a 4-month break, a 6-month break, and then get back to it during the next intake start. If a linear progression through these modules is something which is challenging because of a number of reasons for an individual. And another interesting part of this program in specific is that there are different exit points as well. So, for example, if someone believes that within a year they'd like to take a postgraduate certificate and walk away and for now just focus on their profession, they can complete, say, the first 3 modules and walk away with the same. If they believe they can devote 1.5 years, get a postgraduate diploma, and then utilize that for professional upskilling, they can complete the program in that duration, complete the requirement. And if they still feel that the full MSc degree would be of most value to them, all of these degree awards being at the same academic level of 7, then they can complete the entire degree program across 2.5 years and go away with the MSc degree, but remaining within our student and alumni ecosystem. So this is the Masters of Science degree for Sustainable Maritime Operations, very broad-based, especially for both deck and engine roles, and just requires a Bachelor's of Science degree in any cognate discipline, which could be nautical science, which could be marine engineering, which could be n number of disciplines related to the field. Now, more interestingly, why MSc SMO leads the decarbonization agenda in terms of an academic course is that it specializes on decarbonization itself. The module relating to the same has just been launched last month, and therefore it is quite updated with the contemporary trends, with the contemporary regulatory landscape, which has just been talked about. It focuses on these aspects more from a strategic perspective rather than solely a theoretical perspective. So interestingly, one of the 4 skill gaps that were identified during the previous presentation was strategic fluency, understanding how the regulatory landscape can be bridged, what sort of corporate strategies from an ESG perspective can bridge the same. This is the sort of analysis that the course curriculum focuses on. There's, of course, a focus on a research project. There's focuses on alternative fuels, which have been talked about, which, transiting to the right set of fuels and investing on the right set of fuels is a huge part of contemporary discussion. There's a focus on marine environment, as well as the fact that because this is distance learning, one can go through it at any time which is comfortable for them or which is compatible with their personal professional journey. Two other programs which I will just briefly highlight is we do have an MBA in Maritime Operations. This is a 1 year long research project based programs. It's specifically for people seeking an MBA qualification as a transit to senior leadership, because that is also the subject matter of the dissertation. That whichever subject field they decide to specialize in within the maritime operations domain, they will be taking that from a strategic perspective, from a more overview perspective, and from a more impact-oriented perspective within the domain of influence, within the organizational landscape in which they operate. And the final one is MSc Engineering for Marine Professionals. Often this is aimed at people who are already or who have already, say, sailed as chief engineers. And essentially the idea is that translating their technical expertise, their leadership experience into an academic vocabulary, into an academic landscape, so that they also have a degree credential to supplement as well as complement their pre-existing experience. And then also be having the ability to explain more in an organizational landscape how their previous experience translates to corporate strategy, to organizational strategy. So this is the final 1 year long degree program. Now, one more thing that I would like to highlight is that our strategic partnership with Sea and Beyond has almost been for a year. In the picture, that is, of course, Dr. Gaurav with Glenn Harris, our Chief Operating Officer, in an event that we organized this month itself. And our partnership is of the form that, of course, Sea and Beyond also gives us industry expertise, market insights for the Indian landscape. But at the same time, they do offer counseling support to interested candidates as well, to prospective applicants as well, based on their qualifications and career goals. So understanding their resume, their CV, understanding their aspiration, and therefore seeing how MLA courses could potentially bridge the same, based on their in-house expertise. And apart from that, of course, they have end-to-end placement support as well in terms of connecting graduates with maritime industry opportunities. So the nature of our strategic partnership is such that if, say, someone studies through MLA College as well, Sea and Beyond has the industry connectivity, has the industry networks to assist with placement support for individuals coming through our Sea and Beyond channel to us as well to study. And I've also mentioned the point of contact, for relevant individuals within Sea and Beyond over here. So if that is something you would like to take a note of, please feel free. I will just stay on this slide for 5 seconds.
Right. Thank you, Arjun. Thank you. I think is that the end of your presentation now?
Yes, Captain Gaurav, I'd just like to also introduce our alumni, Mr. Roshan, in his testimonial. So as a brief introduction, Mr. Roshan studied Masters in Sustainable Maritime Operations, which is the flagship program, that I just talked about, and currently is working as a project manager at HEA Energy, in which he is a specialist in maritime sustainability, energy transition, and offshore renewables. So I believe he would be one of the best sources to talk about, the sort of exposure he had and how that personally helped him in his career transition. So, Mr. Roshan, welcome, and this is over to you.
Hi, Arjun. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks to See Beyond and IMEI for having me here. I mean, it's always a privilege to be back, not as a student, but as a alumnus always. And I think the webinar has been quite informative. I don't have to get into any details of what sustainability is, the technicality of that. Even the details of the course. I mean, Mr. Kaushik has explained what is the skill gap, what is the industry looking forwards for, and you have explained very well what the course is all about. So, for the benefit of time, I would just take a couple of minutes to go to explain what was my experience, and then what changes it gave it to me. So honestly speaking, I got into MLA by chance, not by choice. It was it was COVID, and then 2020 I was looking at for getting my master's done from UK, and then this was the only option left out. Not actually the only option left out. I was I had another option, but then it didn't work out. Then looking at distant education, but then that instant changed everything basically. I could work full time. So I've been always in Abu Dhabi. Though undergraduate was from India, I moved to Abu Dhabi for my job and then been here for like 13, 14 years now. Um, my goal was aligned with how MLA College offered the course. I could work full time and do my master's at the same time. And so I opted for the MSc in sustainable marine operation. And so I come from a shipbuilding background. But then it gave me a perspective of how the marine network operates. So I've moved from a shipbuilding organization into now I work from an owner side. I mean, HEA, we own vessels. I work for wind farms in Europe. Um, so what helped this transition is that the journey I had in the course. As I always say that um, the course makes you speak the language of sustainability. It helps you or it changes the way you think, the way you look at the industry. Of course, everybody talks about sustainability. Everybody talks about reducing emissions. Um, all the digital solutions, but then unless otherwise you yourself start thinking uh, in that perspective. In my case, like I focused on delivering projects technically, but then when you start thinking from the perspective of what is the long-term impact the projects you're delivering onto the place where you live or to the entire world, that's when your life or your career changes. That's what happened. That's what the course did to me. I've moved from some the jobs which were more technically oriented or which was not, I would say like I can't say without any gratitude, but the way it has taken me to roles which do now where I'm working is where we work for the wind industry from the oil and gas. So that itself is like completely changing the whole perspective where I was working. Uh, and that happens only because of, I would say, the curriculum. And of course, you need to have the dedication. I've mentioned this many times. Because you're working full time, it's very usual that you lose track of it. I've lost my track, but then I was dedicated and I was determined to complete the course, by the way. Uh, but the more you research, the course is more research oriented. So that the more you research, the more you get into that, the more you interact with the industry experts, especially from the sustainability background. That helps to, it's a full U-turn in your thought process, your strategic thinking, and that will lead the way in the rest of your life. That's what I would say, and I would just like conclude it there, because rest everything has been covered by Kaushik, Mohan, and then you. So it's just my own personal experience I want to share here, and thanks for having me here, and yeah, all the best for everyone.
Thank you for that perspective, Roshan. That really helps. And of course, Arjun, you kind of showed us the details of each and every course and the various modules. And I think more importantly, what you mentioned was that how if a person wants to take a particular module, that's also possible. So that's very valid, and it kind of added on to what Kaushik sir and Mohan sir had talked about the gap which is coming into the industry. So what I'm gonna do now is I'll go to the chat window, pick up questions from there, and then I'll moderate it and ask to the relevant panelist over here.
Yeah, but before that, Gaurav, can I just chip in with something?
Yes, sir.
We have I think Captain Manish Tyagi in audience here, and I recently met him. In fact, last week when I was in London doing with the IMO Council, I got an opportunity to meet him and understand the kind of work which he has done in the last 20 odd years on alternative fuels, especially LNG. In fact, his motorcycle registration is LNG. Can you beat it? So he's I think breathing and doing a lot of things with LNG. Yeah. So I would request him, because on his view and on his expertise, he can probably answer a few questions which are already there in the chat. So maybe if Captain Manish can come in and give his views, that would be great.
Awesome. Well, then happy to have Captain Manish. Good to have you in the webinar, Captain Manish.
Can't hear you, Captain Manish. No,
No.
no.
I think his internet connection is weak. He is coming and going.
Or maybe we can come back to him.
Yeah, let me take a question or two before I come back to Captain Manish.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Gaurav.
Right, right. So I think the first question was from Varun. Varun, and this question is to Arjun. Arjun, Varun's question is that is there a hybrid mode of education as well by MLA?
Hi, Varun. Thank you for joining the webinar, firstly. And your question actually aligns a lot with our current CEO, Professor Dasba's vision of making our degree awards fully flexible, in the sense that people can go through it in a distance learning capacity when feasible for them, and they can come on campus when feasible for them. So in that same vein, we would be launching campus-based modality as well before the end of this year. So if say someone starts a program around the conclusion of this year, near the say September intake, that is a modality that would be possible to them. That based on their availability, they can mix or blend distance learning with campus education. I hope that clarifies it.
Yes, Arjun, your voice is coming a little broken. I understood and I have a context, so I'll just probably repeat it for all the audience. From September onwards, there's a possibility of launching this hybrid learning as well. That's what Arjun said. Right. Right. Captain Manish, are you able to speak now? Okay.
Yeah. Maybe not as yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
We can.
All right. Siddharth had a question, but I guess he had written it down below, and I'll take that question and then I'll move up. So Siddharth's question is that for ports, and maybe if you could take this, Kaushik sir, as per your opinion, what can be done by the ports to reduce the greenhouse gases emission and help IMO to achieve the goal?
Right. Yeah, so that's a good question. And if, I mean, ports are already doing, doing the green transition in ports is a far lot easier than ships, right? So ports already are doing a lot, especially in India, for the green transition. I mean, all the new ports are mandated to switch to all green energy. So, including when we are looking at shore power for the vessels and trying to make their viability in place. So, it's that transition which is happening. So, ports per se are not really contributing that much in the eyes of authorities. So, I guess, and they are mandated by the state pollution control boards and all that. So they already have quite a bit happening. But if they are transitioning, I mean, if they are to become bunker hubs of these transition fuels, they themselves would be using a part of that. So that in itself will help them transition. But we have scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions, which are mandated by the industry. And I guess even their service suppliers, their subcontractors, their multimodal transportation systems are all covered under that scope. So I guess for ports, it's a given on the transition. That's really not a pain point at this point.
Right. Thank you for your input, sir. And I also guess this cold ironing wherein they'll just put the electricity to the ship, which will also help the ships reduce the emissions.
Right. Yeah.
Next question is from Captain Bhupendra Singh. So again to you, Kaushik sir, and of course, Mohan sir, you could come in. What are the most common weakness you see in the ship owners' greenhouse gas accounting and reporting systems? That's a very interesting question.
Yeah, so Mohan sir, you want to take that? Or do you want me to?
Yeah, if you can pitch in, you will be having more data.
Right. Okay. So yeah, so that's a good question and a huge question. I mean, I think to answer that in this forum, it would probably we should need another session like this just to answer that question, Captain Bhupinder. But it's a good question. Yeah. So I mean, data veracity is actually the biggest, and I did mention that. There's no point really having tons and tons of data if the veracity of that is not verified and we don't get the correct figures and measurements are not in order. If that is not good, then everything else what you do after that obviously is not correct. So having the correct set of data and hence the disclosures made thereof are of high significance. So, but we see improvement of data sets over the years. So in my if you look at the last 10 years horizon, I've seen that the quality of data and the number of outliers has definitely reduced, which is a good sign and it augurs well for the industry because so it's a upward trend in terms of quality. Yeah. So I guess it will take some time to be there, but because of the financial disclosures and you need to put in under the garb of ESG, you have to disclose a lot of data in terms of what you have done to say install say a garbage collection system and electrostatic precipitator at your works and stuff like that. So when you are to give a mandatory voluntary disclosure in all this, then you are becoming more and more liable for giving correct data. So yeah, it's work in progress, but it's improving. That's all I can say.
Right, sir. There's another question which is related to it from Jatin, and it's at the end. But I thought since it's related, I'll ask it now that how can this reporting be verified? And of course, the financial incentives to kind of, I mean, there could be financial incentives which could be given, but how could the reporting be verified, sir?
Yeah, so I mean, reporting, we've got verifiers, right? We've got standard approved verifiers, data verifiers. So if you look at the entire IMO's DCS and EU MRV's MRV, the monitoring system, all the emission reports are verified by recognized organizations. So you got systems in place to make sure that your emissions report is verified based on the fuel consumption, based on distance traveled, based on all that geofencing. So those are pretty much standardized now. And in my opinion, 95% of the voyages made in and out of EU, the vessels have correct data in terms of their emissions. Of course, the rest of the world has to fall in line because these regulations have to take effect. But EU is really leading the way here.
And that's
Sir,
where
can you
recognized
hear me now,
organizations.
sir?
Yes. Can
Okay, we can hear Manish. Okay.
So
Yeah.
just to put one line, what you just mentioned about the emission and the places where this can be verified. This EEDI has got its own website, and about 4 or 5 years back, I was working with them for a manager to sort out their the ratings. And the biggest issue what I was finding at that time, it was a small LBV, the LNG bunkering vessel, and she doesn't move much. She's just doing maybe she's just going to the anchorage and coming back to the port, and very short distances. But the emission rating was degraded just because the emission per mile is not meeting with the standard. So it is not only the data that the operator is providing, it is also how it is being calculated. So because the rating fell short of the requirements, then the incentive given, like in terms of port charges and other things, they were not getting that 50% benefit what they should get because of the distance. So we had an argument with them that somewhere down the line you will have to change your formula itself, so that the people, the operators like the LBVs who are not doing much distance, comparing with the conventional LNG, which is like loaded once and then she's doing maybe about 8 or 9 days sailing or something like that. So in comparison to that, we get penalized. So that was one of the things. But thanks a lot that for the information what you just provided. I could not catch up the initial few things because somehow this electronic thing, I could not hear or say anything. But when the question comes in regards to Captain Gaurav, when the question comes in regards to this LNG as a transition fuel or the ammonia or the methanol, maybe towards the end of this, because I was not prepared to talk over here, I was only listening, as an observer or something. So I may not be able to answer each and every question coming up from the gentleman, but at least from I can say a few words in regards to the LNG as a transition fuel, that what actually is happening, then how all the things can happen, how we are doing it. I was also trying to do a lot of things within India itself to start the LNG bunkering thing, but it is still a far-fetched idea. But I will do these things towards the end of the thing. Just give me a couple of minutes, and then I will just try to speak them. I'll just leave the floor to you.
Maybe I think there's a relevant question here which Siddharth has, and what he's saying is that LNG is dominating the fuel. However, there are various drawbacks, and so India is probably he mentions that as a pilot project operator, what steps can we take to reduce the drawbacks, and what can we recommend to IMO? So, I mean, maybe you could answer that question, Manish.
Well, going to the IMO is a very far off distance thing. So forget about thing. Let's start what actually we can do in our thing. Right now, there is nothing existing. Right? I mean, we have tried ranging from the BPCL or Indian IOCs and different entities who have got a lot of. They are sitting onto the pile of money, but then there is still no way to move forward despite having the LNG into their backyard and all the technologies and information, everything is available. But it's like a chicken and egg story, what comes first. So this was the same story about 10 years back over here in the northwest European area where I'm sitting right now, and nothing was happening. But then the government started to take initiative, and then it started to move forward, and now you have the very mature market as far as the LNG bunkering is concerned. We are not having that particular thing. Coming back to the LNG as a transition fuel, again the same thing. Right now we have got a big market of LNG is available in abundance at several different places, but it's again chicken and egg story. Same thing what's happening over here in India. Nobody takes initiative. People do not want to come to India because they do not find the LNG as a fuel. And we are not trying to do anything because we do not know whether somebody will come and take the bunkers from us, and also the tax issues and other things. So there's a big story about it. But now LNG is available to specific places like Singapore. It's over there. Then you have got in Gibraltar. Then you have got in Canada, in Panama. It's also already started, and then Northwest European area is completely matured. So the strategic locations you already have, and it is matured, and it is going to be a long transition. Why? Because we don't find any other fuel that has got the logistics issue, availability, and also that the engines which are designed for that. The methanol is just coming up, but it is still a long way to go because of the size of the fuel tank that you require for the same volume or the energy. And then ammonia, as Mr. Seal mentioned earlier, that it is very toxic, and so far we have not done the dispersion studies as well. You have to do this thing first, otherwise everything is gone for a toss. So there are several things related. Hydrogen, of course, you just mentioned about the train, it started with that, but coming into the shipping, it's still a far-fetched idea. Having the hydrogen in an enclosed space is a disaster anyway. Coming to nuclear, yes, prototype is already there. I think it's about 4 or 5 years where the cell has already been into the development phase. And what we heard about when I attended one of the conference a couple of years back here in London is that you will have just maybe 1 or 2 kilogram of a rod, which you just put it into and then forget about for 30 years. So there are several ways. We are talking about the alternative fuels and coming up. But coming back to the question, what the gentleman raised is that it is a transition fuel, going to be a long transition. Take it from me. Nothing else is coming up in near future, at least till the time we are there for next 20 years or something like that. It takes time. For anything to develop, it takes time. Rules, regulations, and logistics, and getting the things done. The technology, the engines are coming up. Training itself, it's the biggest part, right? So that's how the things are. That's my 2 cents basically. I hope I was able to say something to the audience. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Captain Manish. Couple of questions for Arjun. If you could, Arjun, talk about MSc by Research 12-month program as well.
Certainly, Captain Gaurav, is this a little more audible?
A little better, yes.
All right. Just wanted to confirm. Basically, Masters by Research are our 1-year-long programs. We have research programs in a lot of different fields: navigation, meteorology, hydrography, marine engineering, and even our MBA programs are all 1-year research projects. So the form that it takes is that it is a 60-credit dissertation module that any candidate who's going through the program, they undertake. So in the first couple of months, under the guidance of their academic tutor, they decide which subject area they are going to specialize in. What is going to be their topic of research, within the broader program area. And then based on that, over the year, they have different checkpoints for checking whether they're on the right track with regards to, the quality of their dissertation. And at the end, it culminates with presenting the dissertation officially, up to academic scrutiny. So this is the 1-year format that all our dissertation programs take. And I've also shared my email in the chat box. So if there are specific questions, please feel free to connect. We're very happy to, take this discussion further.
Right. Thank you. Thanks, Arjun. And I think you already mentioned that if a person has a COC like chief engineer and a master's COC as well, they will be considered as an entry qualification for the MSc course. Is that correct? Yeah.
Correct. Thank you for mentioning that.
Awesome. I move on to Jatin's 2 questions. Jatin, let's not compare programs. I know IMU has started a postgraduate diploma. I think for that we would probably need someone from IMU to answer. We're probably not best placed to answer that. Let me take your second question. All right, Jatin, you want to speak? Please go ahead.
Yes, can we, if it's possible, can we take the first part of the question maybe? Then, what are the career prospect? I'm not clear on the how it's helping people to transition ashore. What are the career prospects? What kind of job we can expect after this sustainability course?
Oh, okay. I think that's a good question, and I'll probably request Arjun to maybe have the initial part, followed by Kaushik sir, if you could answer about various openings that a person could apply for. And of course, we get a lot of openings, and I could also add on to what market looks at. So quick one from you, Arjun, followed by Kaushik sir.
So, Jatin, thank you for that question. I know that's the most important question on any candidate or applicant's mind, to be very honest. What are the prospects after this? From an academic curricula perspective specifically, because I believe, other speakers are better suited for the industry-specific answer. It does aim more towards understanding how organizational strategies work. How does the ESG landscape work? How does that align with the regulatory framework? How does that mean on a day-to-day work perspective? So the idea is that it is transitioning from perspective and skills from a on the deck or in the engine operational mindset to an organizational perspective once you have transited onshore, and how you will integrate these learnings in your day-to-day functioning there. So that is the perspective difference, at least with the academic curricula deals with. But I believe Kaushik sir would be better suited to answer the industry specific question.
Right. Thanks, Jatin. Good question. So, are you sailing, or what's your current status now?
Yes, I sailed last second officer rank, and I'm currently looking to transition ashore.
Okay, all right, good. So, so sustainability and ESG, green financing, green tech, these are all areas which have tremendous scope and opportunity in the next 10 years or so. So I guess to get into financial green accounting for shipping firms and fleet performance domains, a lot of shipping companies are having fleet performance centers. So easily to look at being part of that is a good journey. So depends on what interests you. You can pick up any of the domains and get into the sustainability journey. So it's a great future, in my opinion. Earlier you get on, the better it is.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So, Jatin, I'll add on to it because we get a lot of opportunities from various companies. So two aspects to it. One is that if a company looks at a CV, say 2 second officer CVs a company is looking at, one has done some kind of an upskilling, the other hasn't. So automatically what happens is that the person who's done upskilling would be considered for an interview, at least for an interview, right? Number two is what would the companies look at is that there are new areas which are coming in, which maybe the companies themselves are not so much equipped. So if a person brings that kind of value, that kinds of understanding to the table, they will be more keen to look at that particular person, right? Now, what are these new areas? What I mean, and just add on to what Kaushik sir said, there are requirements in emission control. There are requirements in vessel performance. There are requirements in voyage optimization. There are requirements within the commercial shipping. The green credit part. There are requirements. So these will only keep on increasing because of the regulation and the strictness of the regulation coming in. The good point over here is that someone who joins a new vertical at the inception or the start, the scope for growth is much higher, right? As opposed to something which is already going on. So that's why there is probably more scope of growth for any new thing which comes in.
Okay, sir.
All right. So Jatin, I've answered your questions, and
There is also regarding this net zero impact by 2050, if Mr. Kaushik will comment on that.
Okay. All right. Kaushik sir, could you answer that question, please?
Yeah, sorry, what was the question, Jatin?
Sir, I want to ask, like this, we are going for net zero impact by 2050. Like, doesn't
Yeah.
it sounds too good to be true? Like, there will always be environmental footprint, like shipbuilding, there will be ship scrapping. Even if we put all ships on 100% clean fuel, there will always be some environmental impact, like how we are producing such fuel. There is environmental cost relating to that. So how we
Right.
are like pushing towards zero net impact?
Yeah. So I mean, see, Jatin, zero doesn't mean that we are having, I mean, zero emissions or like zero footprint. It's your net zero. So whatever, I mean, there is a threshold. So whatever you are doing, it has to be below that threshold. So if, for example, certain parts of your fleet, certain vessels are over consuming or over emission is happening, it will balance out with the rest of your. So what it wants to do is basically have a net zero, right? Situation that whatever you are extracting out of the energy, you are putting it back somewhere through your green initiative. So whatever you have saved, you are able to put back. So that is like net zero. You have to understand the fundamental policy of like net zero, which then, if you look at the graph, we are now 40% there. We need to be 100% by 2050. So that's what it is. So, I mean, you plant more trees somewhere as an initiative. That in itself is compensating some of the energy if you are expending somewhere. So so as an initiative from your shipping company, you have to make sure that your vessels are net zero and your operations are net zero. That's what it means.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Right. Gaurav, unfortunately, I have to jump into another meeting, which I tried to push it, but cannot. People are already there, so I would have to excuse myself. What I can do is any of the questions which are there, right? We can summarize it and then put it to us. We will answer them and give it back to whosoever has asked for one. Okay.
Absolutely, sir. We didn't plan for a 2-hour webinar, but
No, but it's okay. But this is
engaging,
interesting.
but
No, Gaurav, please remember, this is we are here to answer these, and we are here to collectively. I mean, we don't have all the answers as of now. I mean, you would see much of it. I mean, 2050, for example. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in 2028. Forget 2020. I mean, if Hormuz is operating the way it is now, we don't know what's going to happen. So a lot of it is hypothetical, but at least due diligence needs to be exercised, and whatever knowledge we have and whatever skill sets we have, we need to enhance them. As simple as that. So and so it's a good session in my opinion, and thanks to all the audience who have taken their time to attend and spend their time. Yeah, and thanks to all of you for a wonderful organization of this.
thank you so much for your time, sir. It was really, really insightful for all of us.
Let me add, thank you for all the participants who have really been in this platforms, and a lot of questions which is raised, and really interesting questions. Many questions which need to be basically addressed by Mr. Arjun Sekhon. So if you can note down their basically number and email address, please basically give them the elaborate your whatever information you can provide them.
Right, sir. Thank you so much for your time as well.
Okay, so I'm just exiting now.
Sure.
Bye-bye. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I think let's take the last question, which is from Trevor, who's asking about Master's COC entry level for MSc course. Just want to confirm, Arjun, that is a person is eligible to apply for your course for the master's course using the Master's COC. Is that correct?
That's correct. Not explicitly only a master's COC. We may also recognize different levels of COC based on a case-by-case basis. So we don't just say that if it's a master's COC, that's the only entry criteria, apart from having a bachelor's. So in general, we might say that if you have a bachelor's in any relevant discipline, that is a more valid entry criteria because that is the case for most seafarers across the world. But either way,
No, so just I think Arjun, there's a master's COC. They may not have a bachelor's degree, but they would have a master's license, right? Which we have discussed earlier as well. So as per all my discussions with Arjun, guys, I think that would be it's not just the COC, it's your experience which counts as well. That's essentially what Arjun wanted to highlight, and you would be eligible for that as well. I think another good question from Akhil. If a person is at sea, Arjun, how can the person, sit for the exams?
It's a very nice question, Akhil. I'd like to clarify, we do not have traditional exams in the sense that you might have a traditional written exam based on whose quality that you would be judged or rated. Alternatively, the method of grading for anyone is that they are given a case study or they're given a presentation on which they have to research based on the lectures that they are going to. And that is what they submit, on the portal. So what happens is that they submit that, the personal tutor who's been assigned to them, they quantify it against, the marking criteria, and that is the grade for that program. So it is submission of case studies, presentation, essays, etc., and not a traditional examination. So that is still quite feasible for a seafarer as long as they do have some access to internet, during the journey for the submission itself.
Awesome. Thanks for clarification. Okay, can the lectures and study material be downloaded, Arjun?
Yes, they can be. Offline download is completely possible on your own personal system.
Awesome. So if a person is sailing, they can easily, log into the course and do their and study while at sea. Right. Before we end the poll, let me take a couple of questions, a couple of poll questions before we end it. How many of you would consider a further education or upskilling on the sustainability? And if so, which year would you be looking at? Would you be looking at upskilling this year, next year, or not sure? Captain Manish is, has been into this field and he's given his email ID. So in case anyone wants to discuss or understand more about sustainability, especially LNG, I think please do reach out to Captain Manish as well. He's written his email ID.
Yes, let me add that we are doing basically advance your IGF code course. That's basically again for alternate fuel, and your Captain Manish is starting next week. Okay, this course in Navi Mumbai.
Oh, nice. That's great. That's great. All right. I will end this poll.
So before you end this webinar, let me thank you for basically rather inviting me in this platform. And thank you, Arjun. Nice to basically see you again in this platform after our basically interaction on the 2nd of this month.
Sir, thank you so much. Your time is very valuable. You spent more than 2 hours with us, and thank you for your insights and sharing all the knowledge with us and all our participants as well, sir.
You're always welcome, as usual.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I will just take the final last poll on the feedback from everyone. How did you like the webinar? Is there anything which we could have done to make the experience better? Any questions which you might have, which we would have missed and which you would have asked us to, wanted us to respond to? Please, you can write it in the chat window, and of course, rate us. And Tarun, the brochures and the cost and everything we will share with you, or Arjun can also share with you. So we will share the information with you, Tarun. Sir, we are not able to hear you, Mohan sir.
First bit, I said many of you are basically our candidates. They would like to know where this complete recording would be available.
Sir, so we will share the link for the recording. We will put it on YouTube and we'll share the link with you. And of course, everyone who has registered for the course, we will share that.
Right. Thank you very much.
Right. Sir. All right. Okay. I think thank you for this, for answering this poll, and thank you everyone for staying here for more than 2 hours. Very engaging session. I think it was very, well conducted as well with my colleague Gautam and Disha, and of course, Mohan sir, Arjun. Thank you for your time. Amazing session, and we look forward to having many more of them. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for attending, taking on your time during the weekend. We really appreciate that. And again, to you, Captain Gaurav and Mohan sir, thank you so much for the session.
Thank you. Thank you.